Hey guys, welcome back. BJTHEBRAVE here, and I wanted to do a quick video on the new Ultramarines second company reinforcement drop. So let's dive on in and take a look at these new cards. Well, the first thing is obviously we've got Titus, kind of like the second coming of Titus. If you didn't get him the first time, which I didn't, second chance to get him. Just to remind us, that sells is a 35 health Warlord with a 2/2 standard start line, and for 2 energy you immediately heal yourself by 1. That's not add 1 health, it is heal. But then it gives you a choice of 3 powers for 0 additional cost. So you can heal another 1 to your Warlord, which is essentially giving you kind of heal 2 if you think about it. You heal another 1 to your Warlord and give it +1 melee until your next turn. So, essentially, I mean 3 melee until your next. I'm starting to really like these effects that last until the start of your next turn. So that's pretty cool. And then we've got this one, which is +1/1 to all your troops this turn. That is only for 1 turn. And then we've got your Warlord gains +1 and gets blast 2, giving you essentially go wide, which is yeah, it's really good. So that's Titus. He's not bad, to be honest. Pretty durable, and but he's nothing too new because we kind of had him before. So let's take a look at the new cards. So the first one we've got is Sergeant Gadriel. Now this guy comes with, you know, a fairly decent stat line. He's 7 energy, 7 health, flying's pretty good. If he wasn't flying, it would be less good, but I think flying is pretty good. He's got 6 range attack, and he's also got 7 melee, so it means that if he survives, he's actually pretty good at dealing with enemy flyers, which is quite nice. In terms of his ability, it says Codex, each of your units deals 1 damage to a random enemy. Okay. So it does include your Warlord, because it says each of your units. And I wonder if it includes himself. So if it includes himself, that means that if you play this guy on an empty board, he's basically going to do 1 damage twice. He's going to do 2 damage, right? If there's one other unit on, he does 3 damage. If there's more than that on the board, well, you must be like so far ahead in the game. Because it's not even like, you know, if this guy costs 2 energy, you could have a turn, couldn't you? Like turn 10 where you could play out 3 or 4 units and get the benefit. But it seems like a weirdly designed card to me, because you've got to have had loads of units down. I did play a game against this where got to like turn 15. So he played this guy out, and yeah, he could play loads of other units and it did really well, but that's on turn 15. That's not going to happen very often. So what is with all of these 7 drops that deal essentially 2 to 3 damage? We've now got Gadriel. You think about it, right? If we go on the 7 drops, you've now got Gadriel, you've got the Predator Annihilator, which again, Codex deal 3. Kind of like very similar. Okay, that guy does 3, 1 pops random. This one does 3 to the highest unit with the highest attack, and then you've got the Storm Talon, which does 3 to a random enemy troop. So like, these are all very close to one another. Like, the new card has got better stats than the Storm Talon. I just don't get why we, you know, if you think about it, you can run 2 Storm Talons, 2 Predators, and now this new guy. That's 5 7 drops that all essentially do pretty similar things. Feels like just a bit of a lack of imagination, really, in the design space, and a bit of a missed opportunity, because if we're going to have new cards, and we're only going to get sort of 10 new cards at a time, then printing cards that are extremely similar to other cards feels like a wasted opportunity to me. I honestly feel like for this to go off, obviously it has a high ceiling, but for it to go off in a big way, you've already got to be either massively winning the game, or you've got to be close to fatigue, where it's like I said, it's turn 15 and you play this out with loads of other units. Of course, if it survives, I mean, this is that big if, then the next turn, because it's Codex, of course you can do it again. And that's where this card gets really, really good. The problem is if it survives, like how often do units in this game survive? And if they do survive, they don't survive more than one turn. So yeah, it's probably got pretty decent ceiling, but it feels a bit like a bit of a pipe dream card to me. But even at its floor, it's not bad, just because its stats are pretty okay for a 7-drop flyer. So if you own this legendary, I could see you still running it, because like I say, it's not bad. But it's not something I'd be kind of running out to spend my legendary wildcards on. Let me know in the comments what you think, guys. Like, if you've got a different opinion, obviously let me know. I'm just giving you my kind of initial reactions to these cards, so just take it for what it is. And yeah, don't forget to like, hit that thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. Next up, we've got Valtas. Now, I love this. I love this card. Like, I just love the look of it. Big beefy unit, and I was hoping it was going to be very playable. Let's take a look. So for 9 energy, we get 9s all round. So it can't be cheated. Powerful unit, 9 health, and it has 1 armor as well, which is kind of important on these big units. When a friendly unit attacks, deal 3 damage to the target of the attack. So that includes your Warlord. One of the things that I like about that is kind of feels a bit like Regiment. And you can control the 3 damage, right? Because it's the same target as the thing that you've just attacked. If you attack the enemy Warlord, 3 damage will go there. So I really like that. Again, I just think this is a decent card. Like, problem is it's a 9-drop, right? So obviously it is a vehicle. If we can get this out earlier, then that's what I'd be looking to do. Can we cheat this out a bit earlier? And if we can, it's pretty powerful. It's not a bad card. Like, I definitely don't think this is like some sort of like S tier meta breaking card. It's nowhere near that. I don't even know if it's in my 1 to 5 rating. I'm not even sure if it's a 4 that's good. But I don't think it's a bad card. I think it's safely in that kind of 3 out of 5 spot, and I'd like to try it out for sure. One of the things I quite like the idea with this is something like my old Wide Boy. If you see my old Wide Boy video, deck guide that I did, I think I'm going to bring that back and test that, because of all the decks I've done, I feel like that one might have some good synergy with some of these cards, and I'd kind of like to see that with this. But basically, like a very low to the ground, body heavy kind of deck, so you get loads of pings with it. Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like the Lehman Russ from. Kind of like plays the role that the Lehman Russ plays in the Guard. The only thing is the Lehman Russ only costs 7. It costs 9. I wish it cost 8. I really wish this cost 8. Even if it was like, if all the stats came down once, it was like 8, 8, 8 with 1 armor, and it cost 8. I'd like it a lot more. But it's fun. It's a pretty fun one. Okay, next up we've got the Assault Doctrine. And speaking of fun, like, this is like one of my favourite ideas in this new reinforcement drop, to be honest. So what this basically does, and I have to check with EG exactly how this works, because depending on how you read it, could have got very excited. But basically, when you give Codex to a stratagem that's on a stratagem, it only happens once. So what this means is it will give your Warlord +4. Now that's permanent +4, so you're going to now have 6 melee. Like the Sword of Drachnum, which costs 6, obviously. This thing costs 8. However, if you Codex, it says give the Warlord armor for 1, and then heal it by 3. Now, when you add up all of that packet, all that value, it's actually pretty good value for 8, because, you know, if you think about things like the armor card in Orkz, that costs 5. That just gives you, you know, about the equivalent of 1 armor and heal 3. Your Mortal Pride in Necrons, that costs 6. So there's very few ways of giving your Warlord armor in the game, and those that do cost a lot more than essentially the equivalent of 2, right? Because if we're saying that Sword of Drachnum is 6, which is what the base of this gives you. Yeah. Yeah, look at the... go on to here. Sword of Drachnum is 6 energy for +4. We run this card all the time. It's a legendary card. We run this card all the time in Abaddon decks, in Galeron decks even. So what you're getting here is you're getting the sword, but for an extra 2, you're getting 1 armor and 3. I think it's good. I think the only thing that hurts you this is because it costs 8, not 6. It's harder. You know, you're just not going to get to use it as much. So basically this is going to be great in kind of like if late game control takes on. Like, for example, Imatech Control's always had a good matchup against Marines. Actually, a card like this could really sway that matchup, could really help you in that matchup. And also there are ways to make this cheaper, things like Warp Storm if you're playing against Chaos. Things like your Hive Factory, Fence Strat. There are a couple of ways you could cheat this out and get it a little bit cheaper. But overall it's quite a good concept. I did wonder about the Codex, since I said check with EG, because I wondered can you keep doing this every turn? So could you end up with like shed load of armor and but you don't. You only get it one off. I got that confirmed. So it's an interesting card, that one. It's probably a little bit slow, to be honest, but at least an interesting concept. It's something different for the Marines. Then we got this Primaris Eradicator. This card is for 4 energy, it's got 4 health and 1 armor. Okay, that's not too bad, and then it's got 2/4 stats. I really wish this card was a 3/4. If this card was a 3/4, it would be a lot better. This is a card that is not going to be played really very much. It's like a bad card, but it's a card that I really like. The reason I say that is it's a tech card. If you're coming up against a meta where armor is dominating, this is a card you could tech in, and it would be really good in that meta. If we ever end up with more of a tournament scene around this game, it could be a great card in like a tournament where again you're trying to target certain things. And this is something I've asked for in the game more, which are not necessarily cards that go into every single deck, but cards that give you as a deck builder options. Like it's a tech card. So things like anti-stealth, anti-armor, and that's what this is. So it's not a great card, it's not going to go in every deck, but it's an option if all we're constantly coming up against, you know, is that those annoying armor builds. So yeah. Okay. Next up we got the Bladeguard Sergeant. Now the Bladeguard Sergeant is a 5 health with 1 armor for 5 energy. It's kind of like a Lich Guard idea, but instead of having like a 5/0 stat line, it's actually got 4/1, which is interesting. I kind of like this idea of doing this type of unit, but even just having 1 rather than 0, I think makes quite a big difference. Now, in order to get the second piece of armor, you have to play this onto an empty... Not an empty board, a board where you don't have any other troops. It has to be the only troop for you. So if that happens, you'll trigger the rally and it'll end up with armor 2. I think this card is like... I think in a vacuum, it's not great, but it could open up some new things. Like, you know, I like the idea of trying a sort of Vanguard Marine build now, because there's so many Vanguard units at each thing, so you could definitely see it going in there. Would you is it better than the stun Vanguard? See, that's the other thing. We've already got a 5 energy Vanguard that's got 5/2 stats, it's better stats, and it instantly stuns something. Like, so it's less durable, so it doesn't have the 2 armor, but it's stunning something. Is this really better than that? I don't think so. Obviously it slows the opponent down a little bit more. In fact, does it even do that? Because the stun probably, in terms of slowing your opponent down, the stun maybe counts for more than the 2 armor. I don't know. I'm not massively impressed by it, to be honest. I wish it was a 4/2, actually, if we were leaning into that concept a bit more. But again, It's an okay idea, but I just... We've already got a 5/2/5 Vanguard. I don't know. I feel like it's bordering on somewhere between bad and okay. Like 2 or 3 out of 5. The Heavy Intercessor. Okay, we've got an Intercessor at 2-drop. This is now the 3-drop. Basically what this guy is doing... which I've kind of been wanting for Marines, is it gives you a kind of proactive 3-drop. Now that in itself's not bad. Let's look at the stats. It's got 3 health and 1 armor. Okay, so it's a bit like the... makes me think of the Ork. It's the Ork 3-drop that we used to play a lot of. That has 3 health and 1 armor. But the stats with this is 2/3, but it can potentially be 2/4. So if we hit Codex, it will go up to 4. But only for this turn. And because you're not a flanker, you're not really going to get to swing with it that turn. So then it has to be the next turn that you survive for the Codex to matter. So I feel like with this card, if you've got it in your opening hand, if you do play it on 3, it's okay. In almost every other situation, it's really not that great. I would be keen to kind of like try this in a super low to the ground, kind of go wide idea, which I want to test. I would be keen to try this in that. Potentially it could be okay in that. But in most other decks, I think this is going to be poor. I think it'll be poor in most other decks. Because you can't really make use of the Codex. The Codex is great. If you stick around, the Codex is great, because putting you up to 4, potentially 5, means you can trade up really well. The other problem I think with this card, though, is it just sucks into the late game. One of the things I always think about with 2 and 3 drops in particular is what happens if you draw it on turn 7 or turn 9? Is it any good? And I think the answer to this one is not really, unless you're deploying it with 3 other units and buffing them. In almost any other circumstance, you probably don't want to see this card late game. So, okay if you play it on 3, but outside of that, it's a bit like... I don't know. Bit underwhelming. Pretty bad card overall. We've got the Tactical Doctrine. Now, the Tactical Doctrine is a 5 energy card, and it says give 3 to your units. That obviously includes your Warlord. It's only for this turn. It says Codex draw card. Well, the draw card's interesting. Actually, I actually can see a role for this card, if I'm honest. Like, you got to remember that things like Storm of Fire is really good, and people usually, like, Olvar probably wins, like, God knows, like 70% of its games using Storm of Fire. Now, by the time they've paid to get access to it, they've usually paid 1 for the Olvar power, got to pay 2. Does it cost 5 overall? 4 or 5 overall? Something like that. This thing costs 5 and it can draw your card. I mean, +3 is a lot. Like, if you get a Lord and 2 units, or you can imagine also playing at the same turn as playing a flanker, for example. Like, turn 8, you can play an Intercessor or something like that. With this, giving your Intercessor, like, 7 flank for 3, that's powerful. But just the sheer reach that this thing gives you, because when you do a kind of all infantry, when I've tried like my wide boy deck idea, what we did there is we dropped the burn stuff, so there was no death from above, things like that. Problem is then, where do you get the reach from? This card can give you the reach. It almost replaces death from above, basically, a kind of all infantry deck. So I'm keen to try this card. I actually think this is okay. If you could get it in the right build, potentially it could even be good. Could see it being like a game winner. But at the same time, you've got to bear in mind, it is a 5-drop that needs quite a bit of setting up, and it's just going to sit in your hand. For a lot of games, it's going to sit in your hand doing nothing for a long time. You've got to hit the right situation. So in that sense, it's a bad card. So it's a mixed one, really. I could see you like running one of them. I could see it being pretty good as well in things like Warlords that can draw cards might do better with something like this. Interesting. Definitely one I want to test out, though. Okay, so we've got a few more. First of all, we've got the Eliminator Sergeant. Now, this is a 6-drop, and it's got stealth. Whenever a card's got stealth, I immediately, like, pay attention, because stealth's so powerful in this game, guys. Like, the guy's stats are pretty meh, except for the fact that it's got stealth. And that means that you are more than likely going to survive, and you're going to swing first. And when you get to swing first with 5 range, providing you don't buff it, and sniper, that's actually pretty powerful. Now, he's got this cool little extra ability. When you deploy an Eliminator, give it stealth. Would I play Eliminators if I played this guy? Probably not, if I'm honest with you. Probably not. Nice, cool. Feels like a nice kind of bit of a fluff element. But I probably wouldn't. But I think the sniper thing, I can see this being played. I can see it being played. And actually, if you think about Telion, who's also he's a 5-drop, isn't he? Imagine like this guy in 2 Telions. And yeah, they could be almost like you're almost getting to a build where maybe if you did run the Eliminators, you could almost see like a bit of a sniper build theme running, which would be cool. Do I think it'll be amazing? Probably not. The other thing where I can see Eliminator Sergeant being pretty good is in something like potentially even in something like Uriel Burn, because this guy just gives you reach, doesn't he? Like you drop him, like you're definitely going to get that 5 then to face if you want. But it's quite expensive for that. That's the only downside. So I don't know. Maybe a one-off in something like Uriel Burn I could actually see. Interesting card. Next up, we got Stratagem Devastator Doctrine. Give blast 3 to a friendly unit this turn. Codex, give it +2 this turn as well. I don't love this card. I think, again, I could see it as like a one-of and a situational. If Junith is really meta and dominating and you've got loads of like 3 health sisters, you know, potentially in that type of meta, I could see this being teched into your Ultramarine deck. Other than that, I don't think it's a great card, and I don't think I've played a lot. It's definitely going to have its uses, right situation, but again, very situational. Okay, so next up we've got Chairon. Is that how you say it? Chairon? Chairon. Basically, this guy is a very cheap 2-drop, 3/2, 3 health. Nice stats for a 2-drop. The guy's legendary, so you can only obviously have 1 in your deck, unless you're playing draft. And it says deal 1 damage to a random enemy. Beat for each friendly troop that died since your last turn. Now, since your last turn, I don't think that includes units that died in your last turn. I think it's since your last turn. So what that basically means is units that died in your opponent's turn that's just gone. And I think it includes the current turn. So what that means is, say you put a decent board out, your opponent then clears it all in his turn. And then what you do is you use things like flankers. Imagine it's like E8, maybe you play 2 flankers, you kill stuff, they die, and then you play this guy, and he does 1 for each one. I think this guy's pretty okay. I think this guy could be pretty good. It's kind of got that idea of like burn at the end. I like that it's like a cheap unit. This might be power level wise. This might be one of the better cards in the whole reinforcement drop. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, so there we go, guys. That's pretty much everything. Of course, you got the usual standard stuff. Premium raid offers 20. And you get 1,000 models for 500 medals for 1,000 gold. Yeah, card's pretty nice from the cosmetic. Quite like that. Is that the first ult? Is that the first vehicle, like tank avatar? I'm not sure. Nothing too great to write home about, but the card's nice. And yeah, so we got this now for the next 6.5 days. We're already getting close to unlocking our first card, so that's pretty cool. Overall, when I first looked at this reinforcement drop, guys, I just thought this is pretty bad. Honestly, I just thought it doesn't have much synergy. I'm not sure it's really adding kind of new archetype to the game, and the power level just seemed a bit meh across the board. The more I've had time to reflect, like I still don't think this is a powerful awesome drop by any stretch of the imagination, but I think there might be it might be adding a little bit more. It might be fleshing out some of the kind of lesser used synergies in faction a little bit more. And so if you're thinking about kind of like really well established stuff, probably look at these cards and go, they're not it. They're not going to really enhance a lot of those types of decks. But if you go back in and look at the full collection, I think there's some ideas in there that this reinforcement fleshes out a bit. So I've kind of gone through some of them when I reviewed the cards, but there's a couple of things I'd like to kind of test and trial with them. Overall, I don't think it's a very powerful reinforcement drop, and it's also, you know, like I kind of said about Sergeant Gadriel, I just feel like the design is just lacking a little bit of imagination parts. Seeing like essentially duplicate cards, like things that we've already got 7 drops, similar thing, like the Bladeguard, we already got a 5-drop, similar stats. Vanguard, I don't know. Feels a little bit of a lost opportunity. But anyway, that's my take, guys. It's just my opinion. You know, let me know what you think. Are you going to be getting the premium? Are you going to be fleshing out your Ultra collection? Let me know in the comments. Hit that thumbs up, and yeah, I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Take it easy.